Good morning, rock stars. Amy Welch, your Sapphire upline. And before I go out for my run, I wanted to do a quick video about the importance of compliance. You know, we have a compliance department and we have rules in place for what we can and cannot share about Plexus. And I just wanted to explain to people why that is and why compliance is so important. Because we are supplements, we are regulated by the FDA. Now, the FDA, as you know, does not approve or disapprove vitamins, supplements, baby formula, things like that, but they do have oversight, and they do make rules on what we can and cannot say about supplements. Also, because we're a network marketing company, and we share a lot on social media and other platforms, we are also regulated by the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. And there are only certain things we can and cannot say per the Federal Trade Commission. So Plexus compliance is actually set up to protect our business, right? Our executives want this to be a legacy company for their families, for our families. They want Plexus to be around for generations to come. And because of that, they are very protective of us, and they want to make sure that the FDA and the FTC does not have any reason to, suspend Plexus, shut us down, God forbid, or just do anything to hurt the company. So it's very, very important that we look at compliance as our friend and not our foe. They are here to help us, because what you may not realize is that anytime you post or you share on social media about Plexus, the FTC says that that is considered an advertisement, even if it's your personal page, it doesn't matter. And the FDA also can look at that. So they constantly are scanning and looking on social media for posts around network marketing companies and around supplements. And anybody who makes any type of false claim, they can have a case against them. Now, what we don't want too is somebody who is maybe a competitor to try to shut us down because we're so awesome, just because we're not educated on what we can and cannot say. So I want to do this very quick compliance video to just share what is allowed and what isn't allowed with Plexus. So I'm going to share my screen. I have this great PowerPoint presentation that I want to put together that I did really quickly. Or I didn't do it. I'm actually going to share it. Here we go. So just the basics of compliance, right? You are not allowed to sell Plexus on eBay or Amazon or Craigslist or anything like that, okay? That is not allowed. Our compliance department actually has hired a law firm to help get those illegal sales down. The model we have is network marketing. People can only buy product from a replicated Plexus website. They can buy it from the generic Plexus site if they don't have an ambassador, or they can buy it from us. We are not allowed to sell anything on eBay or Amazon, because then, people who buy from there, they don't know what they're getting. It could be expired. It could be old. If there's a recall, the company has no way to track who purchased it, right? So they are not allowed to sell. Every once in a while, you'll hear somebody say, oh, well, why is Plexus banned from Amazon if it's so great? Well, it's not banned. We're actually not allowed to sell on sites like that. It'd just be like any other company. They don't want their stuff sold on a third-party site that they don't have any control over, right? You want it sold from the company website. We cannot post prices publicly. Now remember, these again are not Plexus rules. They are just helping us understand the FDA and the FTC rules. So you can't ever post prices publicly. It's not allowed. It's not compliant. But you can totally let people know in a private message how much things are. So that price list and all of those great little charts we have, you can't share those publicly or say how much something is. Online specials. We are no longer allowed to post online specials on social media unless it is a corporate released special. So when corporate does 10% off or they do a free shipping, we are allowed to post those. We cannot advertise our own specials. Now, on this one, we're actually hoping that they allow us with some limits to start advertising again. But until we hear from corporate, you are not allowed to post anything around free products, free specials, sign-up special, message me. We've got a great special. You can't allude to anything like that, okay? The next time, if you ever want to do an article, so we have a lot of ambassadors who advertise in like their neighborhood magazine or a local buy, sell, trade magazine. We also have had some ambassadors who have had great articles written about them being an entrepreneur with Plexus. However, anytime that happens, you have to go through compliance to get that approved, okay? And that is what any company would do. When I worked for Lone Star College, if I ever wanted anything about Lone Star or about my job, they had to approve it as well, okay? So this is just making sure that we're protecting the company image, we're using the correct verbiage, we're using the correct logos and the brand that Plexus has out there. So you just have to get it all approved. Plus, any of those print and digital advertising posts, remember that's all regulated by the FTC. So we definitely want to make sure if we're putting something out there that it is compliant. If anyone ever wants to do this, please let me know and I can help you get in touch to get those things approved. Now, if you have an ad or something, you can just email that to compliance and they'll get back to you. Here's something that I see a lot of, and you wouldn't think it was a big deal, but we actually cannot make any ads with any type of celebrity or brand or anything. It's not compliant. And again, that's not a Plexus rule. So even though it's super cute and you might see a lot of other ambassadors doing it, that doesn't mean that it's okay. So we want to be very careful about coming up with super cute little graphics. So anything that's a trademark, we cannot put it with Plexus. No income claims. Guys, this is a big one from the FTC, right? I think most people know you cannot post your paycheck. You can't post the amount. You cannot make an income claim that you actually put a price on, right? Now, you can message that to people. You can private message them. You can talk to people about how much your check was. Now, the way, though, you can share the opportunity with Plexus is through your posts and show how you live those financial perks, right, in your life, whether it's a vacation or buying stuff, but you just cannot make any claims. This is a big one for the FTC because they do not want companies, network marketing companies, making false claims. A lot of companies do that, right? We know they make false income claims that are not true. Plexus is different because you can make money with Plexus. So we definitely want to share the amazing financial opportunity, but we can't put any dollar amount on that because the FTC looks at that very closely. All right, this is a big one, guys, and I know it's hard, but this is because of the FDA. We cannot make any medical claims. This is huge. And again, it's not Plexus. They are protecting us, right? So back when I started, we made medical claims all of the time. But luckily, Plexus came in and said, whoa, 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 we don't want the FDA getting upset and suspending Plexus because per the FDA, supplement companies are not allowed to make any sort of medical or diagnoses claims, okay? So you can never mention the words cure, prevent, or treat. You cannot mention any health issue. You cannot talk about hypothyroidism, gout, diabetes, ADHD. See the thing that's on the screen there. If it is not on the Plexus website, you cannot say it. Now, you can still message people privately. You can still share those types of testimonies privately. We cannot, though, post about them, okay? So if you have any posts, one thing I do when stuff shows up in my time hop, if it's a claim, I delete that old post. So if you have any medical claims, delete those. Even if it's your truth, right? My truth is my hypothyroidism got better. My thyroid levels in my blood tests improved. Even though that is absolutely my truth, the FDA does not care. I cannot make that claim about Plexus because the FDA says that may not be true for everyone who takes it, and we have no kind of backing on that, right? Now, here's the great thing. We can still make claims for things that are on the website that we know our products will do. And there are ways to say things, like you can say things such as, I was very tired all of the time, right? Things like that. we can say those. You just cannot make medical claims. So go to the plexusworldwide.com website, click on every product, and anything that's on there, you are allowed to say about Plexus products. Now, here's the cool thing, guys. Our company cares so much, and they know how amazing our products are. They are doing clinical studies, right? So we have the clinical studies for weight loss for triplex and slim already, which is awesome. So now we can actually make those claims. If you look at the triplex, you can also now talk about mood and immunity boost. So there are things now on the website that we can say, which are awesome. But here's the cool thing. They are continuing those studies on all of the products, including triplex, for things way more than weight loss. So it's just a matter of time before we're going to be able to say more things. But until then, we do not want the FDA coming after Plexus. So please, 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 no medical claims. Product claims. This is kind of the same thing as a medical claim, but you cannot suggest that a product has a specific effect on a disease or a health issue, right? And you can't even refer to a characteristic like as a sign or a symptom. So you cannot say that slim decreased your anxiety. You cannot say that slim relieved your pain from fibromyalgia. See where I'm going with this? You also cannot say X factor made your hair and nails grow. Now, I know my hair and nails have grown tremendously because of X factor. However, per the FDA again, that is not what that product's purpose is for, so we cannot say that. So if you just stick to what is on the Plexus Worldwide website for each product, you're going to be good to go, and then keep checking back, because as more of those clinical studies come out, the more we're going to be able to say about our products. So when it comes to samples, one thing that is not compliant, you cannot give pills out of your bottle as a sample, right? And really, when it comes to most of them, there's no reason to have like a sample of ProBio. You really need to be on it for 60 days anyway. But if you wanted to give somebody, say, a sample of Edge, you're not allowed to give samples, okay? It's just you can't break down those bottles because it's not compliant per the FDA again, right? There's no control, and it's unsealed. And again, if there were a recall. The only thing you can give as samples, you can give P96 because it's in individual packets out of your bag. You can do Slim because those are individual, these are the individual little packets of Slim. You can do that. We also, on the website, there are samples, pre-packaged samples of Block, of Accelerator, and of both the Ease lotion and the body lotion. So right now, those are the only samples we can give. You always, when anyone wants a sample, I just always tell them, even if they want a sample of Slim, I might give them one to taste if they're local, but I always just bring up that 60-day money-back guarantee, because there's no reason for somebody to need like a sample of something with that money-back guarantee. They can try it for a whole month, and if they don't like it, they can get their money back. All right, I get this question a lot. As far as I have somebody who works for another network marketing company, can they join Plexus? Can they work both businesses? What is the rule? And again, this is an FTC rule. This is not Plexus, okay? So you can certainly be an ambassador with Plexus and also be a consultant with another company. That's fine. You can use both those products. What you cannot do is when it comes to working those businesses, all right? So per the FTC, you cannot on your Facebook page, even though it's your page, the FTC says once you brand your page or you identify as a Plexus ambassador or a consultant for another company, that then becomes a company type page. So you cannot promote both businesses, okay, on that page. So if I'm already posting about Plexus and talking about Plexus on my personal Facebook and I want to do something else, I have to create a separate business group on Facebook that I add people to. That's the only way you can do it. Now, what I like to tell people is if you're really in this for the money and you really want to make this, earn that full-time income that I've been able to do, you need to pick a horse and ride it. Because, if you're splitting your effort between two companies, you're never going to have 100% of either company, right? No one has ever gone to the top in more than one company. It'd be like working your full-time job only half of the time and expecting the same results, okay? But the other rules around that are you actually cannot do that where you promote on two different platforms if they are competing products. So if there's a company out there that competes with Plexus, you actually are not allowed to be a representative for both of those, okay? The other thing you cannot do, let's say you're like, you know what, work in my Plexus business, but I want to maybe, I don't know, sell some candles or something. You cannot cross recruit or cross promote. What does that mean? It means that people you only know because of Plexus, okay, people you would not have met had it not been for Plexus, you cannot invite them to that candle party. You cannot invite them to your other MLM job or business. Same goes true with the other MLM. You cannot invite people you only know from that other MLM to Plexus unless they're your level ones, because the FTC assumes that your personally sponsored ones, that personally sponsored your level ones, you know them personally, and that's okay, right? But for anyone else, you cannot cross promote. Sponsor changes. I hear a lot of people sometimes say, hey, you know, I have a friend who's under a sponsor and they're really not getting support. Can they switch to under me? And they can't. This is to protect the integrity of our business and prevent people from switching all of the time, or just because maybe they didn't get their email answered in time, or, you know, there's all kinds of reasons. So we actually don't want people to be able to change sponsors. You guys do not want people to be able to change sponsors. This is to protect our businesses. Now, if somebody signs accidentally, we've had that happen. They go to the wrong website or they sign up on the generic website and they get put under somebody by accident. Those, as soon as we report them, they'll get them fixed. The only other time I've ever seen sponsors change is if you do have somebody who's been inactive for a very long time and they don't know their sponsor, and their sponsor agrees to let them switch, or the sponsor is completely inactive. But all of these have to be approved through compliance, and I've never ever seen a sponsor change just because they're not getting support, because we can support them. You can support them as their friend. We want everyone to have success on Plexus, regardless of whose team they're on. Plus, maybe their direct upline isn't as supportive as they'd like, but they have their next upline and their next upline and their next, okay? So sponsor changes are not something that happen very often unless it was a mistake to begin with. We cannot compare products or brands. And I know this is one where we're like, oh man, I really wish we could do this. But you know what? This is, again, this is not a Plexus thing. We just do not want to be that company, right? We don't need to compare. We don't need to compare Plexus to anything because we know we are such a standout company and such a standout brand, we don't even need to. Plus, when you post something like that, just personally, it brings attention to the competitor, right? We don't want to do that. So just keep that in mind. You cannot compare. Now, certainly you can talk to people about it. You can private message people. I have people ask me all of the time, what's the difference between that and this? So that you can do, but you just can't publicly compare other products or other brands to Plexus. Hand-to-hand sales, this is just if you wanted to, if you're selling stock on hand. Not many people do this because, you know, the great thing about Plexus is we have a website and people just order, it's online shopping. But if you have any stock on hand, let's say maybe you're going to do a vendor show and you bought some 7-day samples and you want to sell them, you must charge the retail price. So you cannot charge the wholesale price that you bought it for. And you have to charge them tax and shipping unless you're running a special, okay? And then you actually have to keep track of those and you have to keep receipts on those, all right? And we do have files of how you can track that if somebody wanted to do that. One thing I had to do when I ran that huge X Factor special and bought over 300 bottles of X Factor for the team, I had to show to compliance who I was giving all that to. So I even had to keep track of that, even though it was a special and there was no money exchanged, okay? Selling in retail. establishments. This is something that you can and cannot do. So there's a couple of rules around this. One, the Plexus business model is not brick and mortar, right? We are network marketing. You want people to go online to your website and purchase. For that reason, you cannot have inventory at a store, but you can have a display. That's totally fine. You can have, a lot of people at hair salons, day spas, even if you own your own business, you can totally have a super awesome Plexus display in your store. You can have business cards, brochures. You could even have little a pink drink where they can take a little taste of it, but you cannot sell product. What I tell people to do is, if you have a retail establishment where people actually you think are coming in and might want to buy it, just have a laptop there or an iPad and have them order right there online from your website. This is a hard one, guys. No pet or child testimonials. And I certainly have been guilty of this, but again, this is the FDA. This is not Plexus, so we're just trying to protect the company. The only testimonials right now that you can give for a child is for the X Factor Children's Chewable Vitamin, because that's the only product that was actually developed for children. So per the FDA, even though many of us get pediatrician approval and have our babies and our kiddos on the probiotics, some even have their kiddos on Slim and Edge, we can't say that, because per the FDA, that's not who our products were made for, okay? And the same with pets. I know I've been guilty of it because I've got my dogs on the probiotic. Again, it's not a product or a supplement that was made for animals. So the FDA says we can't talk about that in a public post. Again, you can share all of this stuff in a private message or when you're talking to people. Before and afters. Now, this is a big one, and I love the new Plexus before and after tool. Before that came out, people were making their own before and afters all the time. I had mine in my underwear that went viral, okay? But we cannot do that. Again, it's the FDA and the FTC on this one, because the FTC says that if you're making your own before and afters, we have no baseline to know if that is actually true, and it could be a false claim, okay? Even though your before and after is legit and you took Plexus and it's not some crazy miracle that you lost all that weight, the FTC doesn't know that. But the cool thing is Plexus came out with our before and after builder. It's in your back office, and we can submit our own before and after. So if you see one like this, I see a lot of people still posting before and afters of like acne or anything like that. Even if you see another jewel posting a before and after that's not from the Plexus builder, it's not compliant, guys. And again, this is just to protect our company. Here's what I love, though, about the before and afters that I want you to think about. To get an approved before and after, it is such a big deal that we should be screaming that from the rooftops to let our people know and let our potentials know that when you see a Plexus before and after, it's legit. We did a double-blind, independent clinical study to prove the effectiveness of Slim and Triplex. Those people that get their before and afters approved have to go through an approval process, so you know they are legit claims. That is a good thing. When you see something like this that's on the screen, we don't know. We don't know what product she took. We don't know what else she did, if she exercised. Like, we don't know anything, right? But when you share the ones that are in that before and after builder, we know that. And you have potentials or guests that might be greens and want that kind of information, that clinical study information. It's a huge selling point that we have those approved before and after. So make sure you're using those. There's a lookbook in the back office with tons of before and afters in it that you can share. You can click on the hashtag Plexus before and after, and tons of them come up. And if you haven't already, you definitely want to make your before and after and get those submitted. Okay, there are a couple of disclosures. So anytime, though, you do talk about some sort of product claim that's on our website, there's a disclosure you should put. Anytime you make an income claim, that's compliant. So let's say you post our income disclosure agreement, the chart with the stair steps that shows how much money you make. You have to put that disclosure on that post. Now, if you're sharing something from Plexus, they already put those disclosures on it. The disclosure is already on the before and after. It's already on that income chart. So I like to just stick with stuff that compliance is already approved, so I know I'm safe. But if not, these are the two disclosure agreements that per the FDA and the FTC, we have to put on those types of posts. If you guys are still unsure if your post is compliant, I promise you our compliance department is awesome. They're super nice. They are only here to help us. So what I did, I submitted my thyroid testimony and they helped me make it compliant, something that I could post. You guys can totally do that. There's the email. It's compliance@plexusworldwide.com, okay? And they will help you with what your claims can be or what your testimony can be. Here are some things we see a lot. These are just some examples of comments or posts that are not compliant. And it's not because we're doing things on purpose. I get that. It's really because we just don't know. So I encourage you guys, stuff like this, we actually can't say that you're no longer diabetic and make that sort of a claim. Again, even though it's your truth, the FTC and the FDA don't care. They only care about claims with our products. So we're just protecting the company here, okay? If you guys ever have any questions, you can definitely email compliance@plexusworldwide.com. I would certainly give them a couple of weeks to get back to you because they are so busy with everything. Now, I also encourage you guys to look through the Plexus Way. If you log into your back office and you go into the library, there are lots and lots of posts from the Plexus Way. That's our compliance department. All kinds of great little tips on how to be compliant, how to make compliant posts, compliant videos, all sorts of great things that and shareables and all of those things from the back office that are compliant. We have some amazing tools. Our marketing department is fantastic, so we don't even really need to make our own things anymore and worry about not being compliant. So I hope that was helpful, guys. If you have any questions, again, you can message me, comment on the page, on the team page, or message compliance.